Thank you very much for joining us tonight again. Two sentences about chapter 17. The rabbi, since chapter 12, is talking about moach shalit al halev. The brains can control the heart. And he's speaking about serving God, a server of God, or someone who does not. That part of life is the challenge. In chapter 17 in particular, the rabbi was speaking about the fact that a tzaddik, a righteous, controls his emotions. A Benoni controls his brains. The brain controls the body, but the emotion not necessarily. And a wicked person is not in charge of any. His brains, his heart can do whatever they want, and he's following them. The rabbi now is going to focus in the next few chapters on the heart. How can we enact the heart to serve God, even if the emotions are not there? Because, as the rabbi is going to talk about, it's very hard to start focusing on the greatness of God and make us feel connected to God when we have a test. If I'm being tested about a mitzvah, not to speak inappropriately, not to eat something not nice, to follow the right path, the best way is to contemplate what the outcome. The best way to contemplate is how great God is and how kind God is, and we want to obey God. The problem is, first, that doesn't always work, because we know the heart sometimes overpowers the brains. And number two, we're not in the mood of contemplating at that time. All we have is a strong urge. There's a famous saying by Rabbi Levi Yitzchak of Berdichev, who said, God, you have put all the reward and all the punishments in the books, but all the pleasures of the universe in front of our eyes. So no wonder we sin and disobey you. How about you reverse for a change? Put all the punishment and all the reward in front of us, and the pleasures right in the book. What happened? How do you feel if you disobey God? I guarantee you there will be nobody sinning. In other words, it's very hard for us to control, to tame, to harness the heart to obey God. And therefore, the rabbi is going to deal with the Jewish heart so that we are able to gain a very quick, so to say, method of serving God. Should I say to you it's a magic pill? Yes, it's a magic pill for someone who is really working hard to make it a magic pill. The fact of the matter is, many people study Tanya and still they don't behave. When they are faced with a major choice, they don't always make the right choice. However, at least we know that this method works, and from time to time, if we wake, even if it prevents us from a little bit of misbehaving, it's all worth it. Here is the introduction to chapter 18. I'm going to start reading. We are on page 253. Says the Rebbe, in the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe discussed the verse, for this thing is very near to you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. That is, it is simple for you to fulfill the mitzvot with your heart, with love and awe of God. This is Moshe Rabbeinu tells the Jewish people before they pass away. Before he passed away, before they crossed to the Holy Land. So it's very near to you to control it and to feel it in your heart. We already discovered that it's not so simple. Only a tzaddik like Moshe, it's easy for him. As the Gemara itself is asking, is it so easy? And the Gemara answer, yeah, for Moshe it's easy, because Moshe was a tzaddik. He explained that through contemplating God's greatness, every person can come to experience such love and awe. Not every man, to be sure, is a tzaddik, with his heart under his control. But everyone's mind is under his control, and he can focus his mind in meditation on any subject he chooses. Even if the love and awe produced by such meditation do not make themselves felt in the heart in a revealed way, they will at least appear in his mind and in the recesses of his heart as an attitude of love and awe. Even this detached form of love and awe is sufficient to motivate one to observe the mitzvot, and will enable the mitzvot to be so motivated to soar heavenward as though he had observed them with a true love and awe of God actually felt in the heart. The rabbi is going to talk about the emotion or a part that exists within a Jew. As it will be discovered, it's called the hidden love that exists in every, it's a flame that exists within every Jew. If you awaken it, you don't need contemplation to awaken it. Just come to the realization that you possess it, and that will cause the person to love and fear God and serve God and stay away from misbehaving. But it cannot truly be said of love and awe, which must be created by a way of meditation, that their attainment is very near to everyone. It's not so simple, and it's impossible to say that it's very near to you to have love for God or fear or awe of God just by contemplating. It's just not going to happen so fast. Meditation requires knowledge of the subject at hand and intellectual predisposition. Number one, you need to know and contemplate about God's greatness. Number two, you have to have the mindset to think and contemplate. What if you're busy? Your mind is everywhere, all over the place. If one's understanding of God's greatness is scant, or if he lacks the intellectual capacity of meditation, how is it very near to him to observe the mitzvah to love and awe of God? It's not so simple to say it's very near. In the following chapters, the Alter Rebbe will therefore explain an alternative method of attaining the love and awe of God, a method that may be used even by one with the aforementioned shortcomings. Even someone who is not able to contemplate because he has no mindset, his mindset is not relaxed enough to contemplate, or he doesn't even understand how to contemplate about God's greatness. He should be able to create a connection, attachment to God. It consists of arousing the natural love of God that lies hidden in the heart of every Jew. There is a hidden love that exists with every Jew, and arising it will enable the person to connect to God. A love that is his birthright, his inheritance from our patriarchs. It's something he did not attain by work, by virtue. It just came to him as part of the inheritance from our forefathers. No meditation is needed to arouse it. All that is required of him is to recall and to make himself aware of this love, and he will be motivated by this recollection of to observe the mitzvot. Since no meditation is required to create them, such love and awe of God are indeed very near. They are accessible to all. They are accessible to all, therefore it's easy to follow. The spark is the soul. He is talking about motivating a person to behave, to act on God.
Was to stir that spark.
Could be it's to stir the spark, yes. To explain, here is the Rebbe begins chapter 18. To explain more clearly and more precisely the word very in the verse, for this thing is very near to you. Moshe says not, this thing is near to you, ki karov elecha. Hadavar, but he says meod. Meod is very, tov meod is very good. He said, Moshe tells the Jewish people, it's very near to you to serve God. And the question is, how is it possible to say very near to you? The word very indicates that it is an extremely simple matter to serve God with one's heart, with love and fear of God. In the previous chapter, the Alter Rebbe explained that a love of God is readily attainable through meditation of God's greatness, whereby one can generate at least an intellectual love, tevuna, yet, as we discussed it, yet it cannot be said of profound meditation that it is very near to you. It's impossible to say it's very near to you. Says the Rebbe, one should recognize with certainty that even the person who has only limited understanding of God's greatness, so that he lacks the materials necessary for meditation, and he has no heart to comprehend the greatness of the blessed infinite God, his mind and heart are not suited to meditation, so that he lacks the tools of meditation. So there is no meditation to produce through meditation a fear and love even in his mind and understanding alone. How much more so is he unable to produce a vibrant, fervent love and fear? Yet it is very near thing for him to guard himself from transgressing the prohibitive commandments through a fear of God and to practice the positive commandments which requires a love of God. This together comprising all the commandments of the Torah, and in particular the study of Torah, which counterbalances them all, says the Rebbe. There is a possibility for every Jew to connect to God through a tool that exists within us that will motivate a person to love God, to fear God, to serve God, and to study Torah. He can fulfill all this in his mouth and in his heart, in the true sense of heart, that is, not only in the superficial sense of the word heart, which means to say in his thoughts. We studied it in chapter 15, but in the true sense of with heart, namely with feeling. From the depth of his heart, in absolute sincerity, with love and fear, as opposed to the tevuna emotion, which cannot properly be called love and fear. They are so designated only insofar as they motivate one's action. The rabbi was talking about the wings, if anybody remember, so that you don't have wings if you don't have love and fear, but if you contemplate, the contemplation creates a love and fear wings, but it's not real love and fear. Now the rabbi is taking it a whole different area, and he says that there is a way for every person to reach the point of love and fear towards God. And the rabbi says, this is the hidden love present in the heart of all Jews, which is an inheritance to us from our patriarchs. Since every Jew already possesses this love as an inheritance, he need not create it through meditation. All that is required of him is that he arouse it and implement it in his observance of the mitzvot. In order to explain how one goes about doing so, the author first discusses the characteristic of this love. The rabbi is going to ask four questions. So before I'm jumping here, the rabbi says to us, tzaddik is the extreme where he can arouse, he does have love and fear of God, awaken, alive all the time. But that's very few people. The Beinoni, he can control his action, he can control his thought, and he can control his speech, but he cannot control his heart. He cannot awaken love for God. Yet, so how is it possible? Moshe says it's very near to you. Says the Rebbe, yes, it's very near to you, because each Jew possesses a hidden natural love that exists within the person. And that natural love don't need contemplation. You don't need to contemplate. That's why God can command us to love God, because he had planted within us the chip, the little chip that makes us love God. The rabbi is going to ask 4 questions about the hidden love to elaborate and to expand on it. First question is, where does it come from? Second is, what's its purpose? What's the purpose of the hidden love? Number 3, we will talk, as the rabbi says, it came to us as an inheritance from our forefathers. How is it possible that an inheritance from our fathers come to us? If my mother hates ketchup, does it mean that I hate ketchup? If my father loves certain food or certain people, does that mean that I inherited the same emotions? It's impossible. How is it possible to say that this hidden love exists with me because our forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, had given us this gift, as we'll discover soon. But after all, they had certain connection, certain feeling. It doesn't transform, it doesn't transfer to the next generation. And the 4th one, what happened to fear? Hidden love will cover only love of God. But there is another aspect to this relationship with God, and that is fear of God. Remember, we talk about 2 wings. This is one of the body parts that you need both. An animal cannot use one wing. One wing will get you nowhere. Just like legs in a human, one leg does not function. Therefore, says the rabbi, okay, so you have hidden love. What happened to the fear? Where is the fear coming from? These are the 4 questions the rabbi is going to address to expand on the hidden love that exists within each one. Once we understand we have that hidden love, we will be able to know how to bring it to action and therefore motivate us to perform God's commandments, even if it costs more, even if it's difficult and challenging. Says the rabbi, but we must first preface a clear and precise explanation of the origin of this love, that is, which level of the soul it stems from, where is it coming from, and its character, that is, what sort of striving with this love constitutes. What does it do? Where does it take a person? And there is a love of God which seeks to a unity with God while still remaining a separate entity. A soul clothed in the body. There is another kind of love which is a yearning for self-extinction and so forth. What drive is contained in this love which is our inheritance? What kind of a love we have with God? Number 3. Also, how did this love become our inheritance? How does one inherit a love? The fact that my parents or my grandparents had a certain nature does not mean that I have the same nature. And how is fear also incorporated in it? Remember I told you the 4th question is, where is fear coming? If I have inherited love from my forefathers, how does fear, where is fear coming in? Says the Rebbe, as stated previously, observance of the prohibitive commandments requires a fear of God. Therefore, the statement that the hidden love in every Jew will lead him to observe all the commandments implies that this love also contains the element of awe. And where does awe come into play? So again, we have 4 questions. Where is it, this hidden love? Where does it exist? Number 2, what's its purpose? Number 3, how is it being our inheritance and coming to us as a gift from our forefathers? And number 4, where is awe coming into place? Says the Rebbe. Maybe I should give you an introduction so we can run a little faster. The rabbi says that this love is embedded in Chokhmah. You know the 10 attributes by now. The first one is Chokhmah. What is Chokhmah? Chokhmah is no common sense. Chokhmah, we call it a spark. Now we will elaborate in details about Chokhmah, I believe, in a way we never discovered before. Chokhmah is the flash that comes from nowhere, koachma, a power of nothing, that will enable Bina to expand and with width and breadth of the idea. So when I first discovered that I have an idea, I cannot explain it, but I'm sure I got the idea because it's beyond comprehension. It's outside my tools of the brains. The brains cannot contain Chokhmah. The brains is Bina. And therefore the brains will take the Chokhmah and absorb that part of it to expand and make sure there is a full idea here. Says the Rebbe, in that Chokhmah, there is a spark of love that exists that is beyond common sense, beyond the capacity of myself, that spark, so to say, of Chokhmah enables me to awaken love and fear of God. That's the first point the Rabbi is going to make. And then the Rabbi is going to talk about what its purpose, how is it inherited to us, how did we get it as an inheritance from our forefathers, and the 4th one is where is awe. So here's the first one. The explanation is as follows. The patriarchs were truly the chariot of God. That is, they were completely subservient to him and had no other will but the divine will. Just as a chariot has no will of its own, but is directed solely by the will of the rider. Anybody heard that the forefathers were a chariot to God? Harry, did you hear that before? God's throne has 4 legs. The 4 legs consist of Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David. King David is the 4th one. There's the Zohar, the Talmud, it's everywhere that our forefathers were a chariot to God. When I say chariot, it denotes total nullification, no self-will. A chariot will follow the direction of the rider. The rider will take the horses, tell the horses turn right. He pulls the strings to the right, and the chariot will turn right. Does it matter to the chariot if you go straight or you turn right? Not whatsoever. Does it matter to the chariot if you go fast or you slow down or you go backwards? Doesn't matter. Like a car is a tool. The tool has no feeling or its own will. If it has its own will, it will not serve me. I won't be able to ride that car. Car that has intelligence to make decisions, it's not a car anymore. It's already a separate entity. Our forefathers' uniqueness, the gift that connected them to God so strongly, is not that God chose them. It's not that they served God, but that they became a chariot to God. A chariot to God is they have no will of their own at any given time, not only when I'm in synagogue, not only when I'm praying. So therefore, God expressed himself through them because they were not a barrier. They did not conceal any part of God. Is that clear so far? Again, a chariot has no will of its own. Imagine you have a glass here to protect us from the heat, but the glass is clear that the sun goes through to heat the room or to be able to see the view. Our forefathers were so just like a clear glass, were so that God went through them in such a simple way that there was no barrier between God's message that was delivered to the universe and them. They were so transparent. They were 100% transparent to godliness, and therefore they were a complete, perfect vessel that can contain God's energy. Says the rabbi, therefore, they merited the privilege of drawing down for all subsequent generations of their descendants forever a nefesh, ruach, and neshama from the 10 holy sfirot of the 4 worlds of Atzilus, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, in which of the 4 worlds and from which sphira within these worlds does the soul originate, each individual according to his level and according to his deeds. So we're not going to go yet about the details. Soon in this chapter, Rabbi is going to talk about the details, but we study already the 4 worlds. We studied the 10 attributes in each world, so it's a total of 40. We can say 40, but there is endless. Each Jew, each individual soul come from one of those levels, one of the 10 in one of the 4 universes. But that soul contains within it a gift from our forefathers, which is the love, natural love for God. Why? Because they were so transparent in the service of God that God had gifted them with the ability that every one of their children forever is able to connect with God directly without contemplation. Converts, by the way, once they convert, they are the son of Abraham, which means that's the reason we call him the son of Abraham. It's not a symbolic, it's because Abraham is the first one, and therefore Abraham gifts those people the same type of transparent connection to God, which is unabridged, and it is directly to God. Now, each Jew, each neshama will come from a different spot, but all of them will contain that type of spark that connects to God, a open love. His level refers to the level of the root of the soul. His deed refers to the effort towards refining himself. As the Zohar states, when one betters himself, he is given a higher order of soul. When someone refines their soul, they can ascend higher in the level of the 10 attributes. At any rate, says the Rebbe, Even the unworthiest and most sinful Jew draws down by their marital union a nefesh from the level of nefesh of Malchus the Asiya, which is the attribute of royalty in the world of action, the lowest one. Says Rabbi, you can have a couple, married couple, Jewish men and Jewish women who are married, and they have a relationship, a marital relationship, and a child is born. When a child is born from that union, it will connect a gift from God. That's God's gift to that human, which is a spark of God. That's not just a neshama, it's a spark of God that was gifted to them from Abraham until this very day. It's a he or a she equally. Even the lowest of the law of the Jewish person will possess some type of a spark, even if it's the lowest world, Asiya, and the lowest of the 10, which is Malchus, royalty or kingdom, but it will contain the same DNA of all the other Jewish souls. This means to say that the union of every Jewish couple, no matter how low their spiritual level, brings forth a soul from, at the very least, the lowest level of holiness. This lowest level of Nefesh de Malchut de Asiya, for Asiya is the lowest of the 4 worlds, and Malchut is the lowest of Sphira within that world of the 10. Malchut itself is further composed of 3 levels, Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama, Nefesh being the lowest of the 3. In addition, so as we have seen in the previous chapters, the soul itself consists of the 3 levels of Nefesh, Ruach, and Neshama. Thus, one who has been given only a Nefesh, which stem from Nefesh of Malchus the Asiya, has the lowest order of soul deriving from the lowest level of the spiritual hierarchy, as the Alter Rebbe now goes on to say. I am going to just show it you a letter from the Rebbe. The Rebbe, a letter addressed to a man, in which the Rebbe says to him, I have received your letter in which you ask me, you're making 3 points. Some are questions. You write that you do not believe that you're Jewish, even though you're born to a Jewish mother. The first question you ask me is, it's in the letters and they will be translated into English. The first question, how is it possible to be Jewish if you don't believe in God? The second question, how is it possible God took away free choice from Jewish people because they cannot choose according to the belief of the Torah, they cannot choose not to be Jewish, so they have no free choice. And number 3, how can one remove himself from the Jewish religion? This is the 3 questions. A, how can someone who don't believe in God be a Jew? Number 2, how come the Torah, according to Torah, we have no free choice? We cannot be un-Jewish. And number 3, how does one remove himself from the religion? The rabbi, very briefly, the rabbi says that unlike any other religion, a Jew was born with a spark, which we discover here, called the hidden love for God. That spark cannot be removed because you have no control over it. Because you can't control it, you can't get rid of it. Therefore, says Rabbi, you can say whatever you believe in, it does not take you away from, that spark is not removed from you, and therefore you're as Jewish as everybody else. So if someone is a grave sinner, someone don't believe in God, is an atheist, he did not change, it did not affect that hidden love that exists within him, and therefore is as Jewish like everybody else. There is no difference between him and anybody else who is very holy. Regarding free choice, the Rebbe says to him, just like if you plant potatoes in the ground, there's no such thing as free choice to expect tomatoes. It doesn't work like that. Because potatoes, for generations to come, the DNA of the first potato God created is still embedded in the new potato of today and tomorrow. You want onion? You better find an onion. But if you plant a potato seed, what are you going to get, Ali? Potatoes. And therefore, if you planted a Jewish spark in you, you can choose between pleasing your soul, making what makes the soul comfortable by studying Torah and fulfilling the commandments, or not. That's the choice you're given, but you're not given a choice if you have a potato bush to create now walnuts or to create pecans, it's not going to work. And regarding the third question, how can a man remove himself from the religion? He says it's not about a religion, and therefore it's a spark that goes on from parents to children. So the parents are credited with this spark, not spark of the soul. The parents are the ones who are credited with the hidden love that is given to them from their parents, given them from their parents, all the way to Abraham Avinu, and that's how it goes to the children. Says Rabbi, this is the lowest level of holiness in the world of Asiyah, yet since Malchut is one of the 10 holy Sfirot, and since holiness is the realm of unity, where every level is comprised of all the other levels, perforce the lowest level of Asiyah, is compounded of all the other levels in Asiyah, including Chokhmah, the Asiyah, wisdom of the world of action, the highest of Sfira of Asiyah. The Rabbi says that in holiness, everything is connected, interworking. We discovered before at Jayla, we spoke about the difference between chaos and tikkun and fixed universe. The difference is in Torah, no one wants to work with each other. Everyone is to themselves. In tikkun, it's all about combining and uniting. So therefore, if I'm holding the lowest level of the 10 attributes, I'm also reaching out the highest level because they all combine together, they work together. Now, once you reach that level, the highest of the 10 in the world of Asiyah, it connects to the highest, to the lowest level of the world above it, and that it goes on. So at the end of the day, you have in the lowest level of the 10 attributes of the lowest world, you have a component that comes from the highest level, from the highest world. Just, I think today it's very easy to explain like a DNA. The DNA that the father implanted in the mother before there was a baby, that DNA contains all bodily organs. All body organs come from the same DNA. But once they develop, as they descend over time in the mother's womb, now suddenly one becomes hair, the other becomes nails, this one becomes the leg, the other one becomes heart and lips and eyes. The DNA is all the same. However, externally, when you look at it, these are eyes, the other one is a finger, the third one is a leg. They are totally different because how they developed out. But if you bring them back to their essence and the source, it's all the same, all inclusive. That's why even if the father and mother gave the child the lowest of the lowest level of that DNA, it contains with it all the other levels. Ali, did you understand so far?
Rabbi, I have a question.
Yes.
When we're talking about the soul that's created through that marriage in whatever level of the world we're in,
Right.
that is not the same as the soul that we receive in from Azalut, right? Or is it?
No, it's not.
It's different. Okay.
That I try to make that distinction, and thank you for pointing it out.
I just-
The neshama is a spark of God. He is talking here about a gift given to us by Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They did something very unusual. They lived in this world in a total transparency for God. Therefore, whatever God wanted, they followed through. That's why the title Merkava, chariot, is very unique that was given them for Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David. Just a minute. Therefore, God has given them a gift. What's the gift? Every time a child is born to a Jewish mother, that's why the Rebbe screamed that today in feminism, we're giving women their equal rights, and they should have their own rights, says the Rebbe. At the same time, you're going to take away special rights that the Torah assigned women. And that is, if the father is not Jewish and the mother is Jewish, the child is Jewish. But if the father is Jewish and the mother is not Jewish, the child is not Jewish, because the gift is given based on the mother. The mother is the one who is gifting. Why? There are many reasons, but that's what God says. And yet, throughout generations, we all knew that the mother will decide if his child is Jewish or not. Now we come and say, no, it doesn't have to be the mother. If the father is Jewish, it's sufficient. So you're taking away special gifts that was given to women. Now back to our discussion. That's a gift that God gave to the children of the forefathers. They had children, they received the same gift. They had forever, as long as there are children that are descendants of Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, they will receive that gift. Including in it are the converts. The converts are becoming children of Abraham because he's going to gift them that gift at the time of conversion. Period. That's why you cannot undo a conversion, because once that gift is placed, like every Jew, it cannot be taken away. Yes, Harry?
More than one soul.
Huh?
We have more than one soul.
We have one soul that's divided into 3 levels that are in the body. There are total 5 levels. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Chaya, Yechida. Chaya is outside, Yechida is still connected with God. Nefesh, Ruach, Neshama, Nefesh is the lowest, Ruach is the second, and Neshama is the third one. The rabbi is saying that even if that gift it gets into Nefesh, in other words, the lowest of all levels, and it came from the lowest universe, which is Asiya, and it came from the lowest of the 10 Sfirot, which is Malchut, still it contains in it the same DNA of the highest level, in the highest universe, in the highest part of Neshama. You understand that? Ali, do you understand that? Just like a DNA in my hair is the same DNA that exists in my brain cells. Except the hair now, I can cut it and nobody cares, and I have new hair. If somebody touches my brain cell, I'm dead. Because once they developed, each one is assigned a different task, and therefore they're different. But in the essence, you can recreate, one day they'll create brain cells from a DNA of the hair. In other words, when it all started, the DNA in all of them were the same. Yes, Harry. They are still regional. They're already regionalized. Yes.
You asked me about the chariot with the bromance with Yaakov and
Yeah.
David. I hadn't heard about it. It always gets back to the idea of somebody who talked about this in the Merkabah.
Ezekiel saw God's chariot, and there were four legs, and each leg, no, there were 4 faces in each leg: man, lion, eagle, and ox. The king of each of those categories: the king of animals, the king of birds, and the king of beasts, which is the ox. The man face of the chariot, one is Yaakov, the second is Yitzhak, the third. All right. So, Chabad don't say ushpizing on the sukkah. You know, ushpizing is inviting guests into the sukkah. The rest of the, why? I think I know, but I don't want to say because I'm not sure. I don't have a source. We do not say inviting guests, okay? But if you read about the inviting of guests, they say parts of Zohar, I'm pretty sure, mentioning that the guests are chariot to God, the first form. You've seen that. Okay, so you see, it's not a... I'm not saying it's wrong. Most Hasidim do. Hasidim, Misnagdim, it doesn't matter. In Chabad, the sukkah is 7 days. Part of the celebration of the sukkah is inviting guests. In Jewish tradition, in all communities except Chabad, and Chabad is a single one, when a man enters the sukkah the first night, the second night, the third night, they invite a particular guest. The first night they invite Abraham, our forefathers, and they say a prayer in which they invite Abraham to join them. The second night they say the same prayer, inviting Yitzchak, Isaac. The third night Yaakov, then go to David, then Yosef, then Moshe, and then Aaron. That's, I believe, that's the way, the order. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, Aaron, David, Yosef. Yosef, David, or David and Yosef. Okay, these are the 7 shepherds that the Jewish people have. In the Chabad communities, we talk about the Rebbe every night would talk about each one of the Ushpizin. That's called Ushpizin. Ushpizin in Aramaic for guests. Each night the Rebbe will talk about the Ushpizin of that night. But the prayer said, and upon entering in the to the sukkah every night, is not said in the Chabad community. In addition to the 7 holy ushpizim, the Chabad has 7 Hasidic ushpizim, beginning with Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov is the first one, Mezrit Shemagid, Alter Rebbe, this one is the third one, with Yaakov. So each night you have one and the Hasidic one, another one with the Hasidic one. But we do not say any prayer. All I brought it down is those who say the prayer. I believe part of the prayer is mentioning a text from the Zohar, which tells us that those forefathers, the first 4 of the Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, and David, are chariots of God, to God. As within Chochmah de Asiya is clothed Chochmah de Malchus de Atzilus, wisdom of royalty of the world of emanation. I hope I explained that very well. It's technical. As the author explains chapter 52, the Sphira of Malchus de Atzilus closes itself in and illuminates the world of Asiya. Since Malchus de Atzilus contain all the Sphirot of Atzilut, the illumination of Asiya by Malchus thus means that each Sphira of Atzilut, as it is contained in Malchus de Atzilus, garbs itself in the corresponding Sphira of Asiya. Chochma de Malchus de Atzilus is Chochma de Asiya. Bina de Malchus de Atzilus is Bina de Asiya, and so forth. For the Kabbalists, it will be very, very powerful. All the Rabbi is saying is realize, because in holiness it's all about unifying and unity. When I grab the last one of the 10 in the world of Asiya, which is the last one, it contains also the same one of the top one of the 10, and that top one of the 10, the lowest of the next one, and the top one. So you have, it's like a layers within. When you get to the core, you dive deeper, you'll find all the other holier levels of the 10 attributes. Says the Rebbe, in Chochmah de Malchut de Atzilut is clothed Chochmah de Atzilut, since all the Sphirot of Atzilut incorporate each other, which in turn is illuminated by the actual light of the Blessed Ein Sof. Says the Rebbe, when you go back, you'll find that the essence, the first Chochmah is intelligence, is the first of the 10. In Atzilut, the first universe, has extended himself to all the 10, and then the other 10, and then the other 10, and then the other 10. So if the parents misbehaved, they did not follow holy conduct, and they brought their son, a child, or a boy or girl born, they will give maybe the lowest of the nefesh, of the spark to the soul. Yet that will contain all the other levels. I think this is very, very appropriate now to share that the Rabbi, and we mentioned that in 2nd chapter of Tanya, I don't know if you remember because I went very fast, but the Rabbi points out that many, many times, simpler Jews who are very far from being holy people are the one who were granted very, very holy souls, meaning that they got that spark of hidden love in such a great level that came from such a higher stand that it created a human being that became a prodigy and later on became a great leader. We know many, many leaders of the Hasidic movement that came from very simple people. We know that King David, the house of David, which is, we are all Jewish. Jewish is Yehuda, is Yehudi. It comes from the root word of David. It starts from Ruth. Ruth is a Moabite. Moabite, the start of that nation is from an incest. You know, the father slept with his daughter. That's where, and Ruth came from Moabite. Rabbi Meir, the father of all the written, the father of all the oral tradition, Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Akiva, is a son of converts. Rabbi Meir was a convert of Rome. He was a son of a Roman leader in the Senate of Rome. And they're the one who had gifted us with the oral Torah. The oral Torah that we have today is thanks to people who are not direct descendants of the Jewish people. And the reason is, I don't want to say the reason is because the Rabbi is explaining elsewhere. The reason is, the point to be made is that a child can be born to very simple people, yet he would be gifted with a soul, not just the soul, I'm speaking about that spark, the hidden love that is gifted from our forefathers to a very, very high level. And therefore, a convert will have the same as we see by Ruth. That's why she's the symbol of all converts. And there are endless, we have Shmaya and Naphtali and two men. Ezekiel, anybody heard of Ezekiel? Ezekiel was a son of a convert. There is, and he was able to prophesy the highest of all prophets. He was the closest to Moshe. He prophesied outside of Israel because he was a convert. He was a Jewish man that, Onkelos, yeah. There are endless examples. I'm talking about people who are Shmaya and Naphtali kept the Jewish tradition in their time, and they both converted. They themselves were converts.
It's amazing.
It is amazing.
It's amazing that all these from Noah people with greatest now history.
Yeah.
Shmaya.
No, it shows that God is very creative. That's the way I say it. That God is extremely creative. Really. To show us that there is no single line. There has to be multitude, you know. The combination creates a very strong bond. And God shows it by doing this. In our generation, the example I'd use is the Germans. The Nazis' children, the highest, I think I shared with you, in Israel, the highest number of converts from any country in the world is Germany. There is a son, there is a daughter of a very famous Nazi, one of the great leaders of the Nazi movement, that his daughter, the granddaughter now, is in Mea Shearim. She married a Neturi Karta, you know? Didn't know that. There was a famous story in all the newspapers in Israel. There are many, many children of Nazis that some say because they feel guilty for what their parents did, but this is now even the second generation grandchildren. They're just curious about what it is that their grandparents hated so much, they invested so much into this illuminate. And they start discovering, and it catches them, and they connect. There are so many. We knew here. I had a neighbor from Holland. I had a neighbor. I knew here a very famous artist who passed away since, but he was from. Actually, is also from Holland. But I think that his parents came from Germany. They ran away. His father, I think, was an SS. He became a voice of the Jewish people. Not only converted. He was a quiet family. I don't want to get in share details. I don't want to disclose the person's details, but you see in our generation, literally, not only that the Jewish people have survived, but you have people from the enemy that are converting. You don't find Jewish people who convert to become Nazis. You don't find Jewish people who are hating Jews for whatever. You have people who hide, that hate, that hide the Jewishness because of fear. But you don't find them that ideology, the ideology of being Jewish is something they reject. You don't see that.
You had a lot of Jewish people, a couple of Pope, the Jewish would think.
So again, it started, and at the end of their life, they came back. You know that, right? Yeah. There was a famous bishop of France. You know that story, right?
Yeah, sure.
Huh?
Yeah. Sure.
He has to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. He was a son of he's a Holocaust survivor. There is a famous joke that when the bishop died, they discovered that under his cover in the yarmulke it says Bar Mitzvah of Moshe Cohen, 17 Tammuz 57, 55. No, but a lot of bishops, huh?
Cat Stevens.
What about him? That's from France?
He was Jewish.
He was
Cats,
Jewish.
eating cats.
He changed.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure it's true.
All I'm saying,
Oh.
I know the Bishop of Paris asked to be buried in a Jewish cemetery. I know about 5 years ago in Europe, there was a famous bishop of a country. And before he died, he revealed that he was being in touch with the rabbi to atone all his sins for all the years, over the few years. and he asked that they wouldn't mind, but he wants to be buried as a Jew. Huh?
Friend of mine who was a rabbi in David Gutterman, he was a rabbi in Philadelphia, tells a story about his father-in-law. His father-in-law became a priest. He found out after he became a priest he was Jewish, and he went back to he became, you know.
So you see, so they didn't know, but ideology, it's the anomaly. On the other hand, from the other side, if you go to Israel and you start the research, a lot of people, a lot. It's not just single people, you know. It's
A lot of people what?
convert to Judaism,
Converted.
become Jewish, Nazis, children and grandchildren of Nazis.
But they were Jews.
No,
No?
children of SS officers, children of real Nazis who convert to Judaism. Anybody heard of this guy from Hungary? I wanted to bring him down here. He was part of a radical right movement. He was the leader. And in Hungary, all they did is hate Jews. They were fighting against Jews. And one day he discovered that by a Chabad rabbi that he's Jewish. And he says, let me find out what it is. And then he became a full-fledged Jew. And nobody heard. He came to speak in Canada. I gave a talk about it on Shabbos.
There was a book written in 1960 or 69 by a Frenchman, it's no longer available, called We Are All Jews. And he made a case for the fact that most of the people in the world are Jewish. He made a case for it.
All right, could be. Let's continue. I want to continue studying a little more. In Chokhmah, so the rabbi says that in the lowest level of the 10 attributes, you would find the highest level. And therefore, it includes Chokhmah de Atzilut. Atzilut is the holiest, highest world. Chokhmah is the highest level of the 10 attributes. So even if the parents granted the lowest of the law, it does contain the highest of the high. As it is written, God in his wisdom founded the earth. The words God in his wisdom shows that the light of the Ein Sof illuminates the sphere of Chokhmah, that Hashem is in Chokhmah, while the words wisdom founded the earth indicates that Chokhmah is clothed in Malchus. That's how it creates the universe, because it descends itself, Chokhmah, godliness of Chokhmah goes down all the way 9 more levels into number 10, Malchut. Which is called earth. For like the earth, Malchus is the lowest level in its hierarchy, and it is further written, in wisdom you have made them all. The word made indicates that Chokhmah is clothed in a Asiyah action, and therefore thus, so here is the summary of what the rabbi wants to say. Thus we see that the light of the blessed Ein Sof is garbed in the faculty of wisdom in the human soul of whatever sort of a Jew he may be. Further in the chapter, the Alter Rebbe explains why it is the faculty of wisdom in the soul that receives the illumination of Ein Sof. So first, the Rebbe says that every Jew will have this gift, and it starts in Chokhmah, even though the soul of a Jew might be from Malchut of Asiyah, the lowest of Asiyah, it has the spark straight from Chokhmah. In turn, the soul's faculty of wisdom, together with the light of the blessed Ein Sof, that is garbed in it, suffuses all the levels of the soul in its entirety, from the head to foot, as it were, that is, from the highest level of the soul to the lowest, to animate them with godly vitality. As it is written, wisdom gives life to those who possess it. The soul which possesses the faculty of wisdom receives its life by means of its faculty, as stated above. And therefore, at times, here is the point that I made, the sinners of Israel, may even bring down for their children very lofty souls, which had been in the depths of the klipot, as it explained in Sefer Gilgulim. The rabbi there explained that the many righteous men, many holy souls came down to parents who were very defiled, very unholy. A soul that has fallen captive in the hands of klipa remains in this realm in this state until the klipot released it of their own will. Anything in the hold of the klippah cannot be wrested from them against their will. For the principle that God does not make unjustifiable demands of his creations hold true even with regards to klipot. In the case of a child to be born to sinful parents, the klipot willingly releases the soul in the hope that such a child will be influenced by its parents and will become a sinner like them. In this way, the klipot stands to extract an even greater measure of vitality from the holiness of the soul by means of its eventual sins. However, having such a lofty soul, the child is able to overcome the obstacles imposed by its parents' wickedness and may rise to the level of a tzaddik. In this way, paradoxically, it comes to pass that a tzaddik may be born to wicked parents because of their wickedness. Let me explain, summarize, it's very powerful. The rabbi says that some holy souls fell into the hands of the klippah, of the evil forces, and they refused to release it. God will not force it out of them. So what does God devise? He devised a very nice plan. He convinced them to send that soul to parents who are sinners in the hope that that holy spark will sin also. Now, when a man sin, they get fed, they get paid, they get interest. So the greater the soul, and the soul that sins, the greater the reward they benefit from that soul. So what does God do? He gives a parents, he chooses parents who are unholy, they don't conduct themselves according to Torah, and he points it out to the klipot, and he says, a child needs to be born, and they said, we want it. We want to give one of our souls that is captive. So they are sharing, they are sending a very holy neshama to those parents in the hope that soul will be influenced by the parents and therefore feed them. But a holy soul will be doing what's right. And as they grow, they become influence of positive and good in the universe. And therefore, the plan of the klippah, of the evil forces, does not work out. But the point to be made here is that holy souls, and in many cases, will be given to parents who are very, very unholy.
It's Hashem that sends the soul.
Hashem decides that a person should be born. Hashem decides which soul, but he offers them the opportunity to give that holy soul to a specific child,
To who does he give that opportunity?
to the evil forces. Do you understand that? There is a famous story, remind me next week, of the fourth Rebbe that to redeem a very holy soul. But we'll talk about it next time.
Wow.
Thank you so much. We'll continue next week, Edwin.
So, Rabbi, here's a quick question for you.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thanks for being in there.
Just a minute.